we have lined up today. So to answer this question, how did I beat CELPIP? I told you my story. I did CELPIP once and I made it. The only thing that I did different is I did not attempt CELPIP considering it to be an language testing examination. That's the only thing that I did different. A bit more about my background. I had been lecturing for accounting related subjects before I moved into Canada. And even while I was here, I was just voluntarily doing that. I did lecturing for professional qualifications like CEMA and ACCA and business strategy. So I analyzed CELPIP not as an English language test. I analyzed that as just another business case. So I looked at what this is about, and I tried to break and understand what the exact requirement is. So many people who are unable to get the particular band score they are targeting, if they are unable to do that, it's simply because not that their English is necessarily bad, it's because they have not understood what the requirement is, right? They don't know the test format, they don't know what to expect, right? So that's what I did different, and it really worked for me. And that's what we try to fix through this course. So having said that, I will start expecting that there are people who have not done CELPIP. So I will just give a very brief introduction in using a couple of minutes what you should be doing. So you should know that CELPIP has two versions, CELPIP General and CELPIP General SLS. If you are targeting for migration express entry purposes, what you should be looking at is CELPIP General, where there are 4 sections, just like IELTS. So General LS, as LS stands for, is just listening and speaking only. It doesn't test the reading and the writing skills. Why I said that in the outset is because I've seen people being confused whether to book for CELPIP or CELPIP General or CELPIP General LS. So you should book for CELPIP General if you are doing CELPIP for migration purposes. It has 4 modules. And when you go to the CELPIP site, you will see it's the more expensive examination than LS. Right. So as I said, you should first have a very good understanding about what you have to face at the exam. Many people just try to do some past papers, go through some YouTube videos and write some practice examination questions, do some mock exams, and go and try to do the real exam. It might help, it might not help. It didn't help me. What helped me is that I basically completely broke it into pieces and I tried to identify what are the questions, what is the nature of the questions, how much time is being allocated for each section, under each section, how many questions are there. Now, these are little things that even we've been taught during our school time, ordinary level or advanced level examination. We were told when we were doing the MCQ questions, just calculate and see how many minutes are available for a question. So I did exactly the same thing. So first, what you will face is the listening examination, which is about 47 to 55 minutes, according to CELPIP website. There are 6 parts and 38 questions. You've got like 1.2 to 1.4 minutes to complete each question. Now, the challenge here is that compared to IELTS, you don't have your set of questions in front of you while you are listening. So if you are someone who have done IELTS before, and if you're doing CELPIP for the first time, you will find this very challenging. Even I found it very challenging when I did the practice test. I even thought I should not do this. And so many people, including CELPIP website, instructs to take notes. Yes, you have to take notes. But the question is, people don't know what to note down. Because while you are taking notes, the video is continuing, the recording is continuing, and it won't stop. And if you just focus too much on taking notes, you are going to miss a lot on what you are listening. So what we will be teaching in this course is exactly what you should be noting down, right? I have helped, after I did my examination, I have helped several other people who faced the same issue. And I exactly told them what I did, and it worked out to many people. Then the second part is the reading part, where you questions, right? So roughly you get about 1.5 minutes on average to answer each question. Me personally, this was the most challenging section for me. Yeah, even in IELTS, I always got relatively good scores for everything else. But for reading, I didn't get very good scores. I got, but it was the lowest out of all four. So again, reading each section, you have to know what the requirement is, right? So one thing that I would advise for anyone who is joining in today is, please know the exact requirement, right? That's why I spent about 40, 60 hours going through all the videos. When you register for CELPIP, you get all the access to all their videos. I spent 50, 60 hours going through each of those videos, making my own notes and understanding what I should do. That really helped me. And that is something I can guide you on. In the writing section, you get 2 tasks. I would say out of all 4, this would be an easier section because you just have to write an email, and you have to write an essay, basically based on some topic which they give. 2 tasks, about 150 to 200 words, roughly about 26 to 30 minutes for each section, right? One good thing in CELPIP, it gives you the word count, and it highlights if you get anything, any spelling mistakes, right? Which is not there in IELTS. So that's why I said in certain areas, this is much easier and you have an advantage. Speaking section, 8 tasks. Each task you get about 60 to 90 seconds, certain sections 60 seconds, certain one 90 seconds, right? So even before you know, your speaking section would be over. And that is the last part. Okay, so today's session is basically to give you an overview for all these 4 sections. And I will just roughly touch upon what are the things that you need to do different, some of the things that which I did different, because I won't be able to cover everything that I did differently in 1 hour's time, but I'll try to touch on most of the things. Okay, let's move on to the first one, CELPIP listening section. So as I said, the listening section has 6 parts. Out of those 6 parts, there will be 3 parts. The first 3 parts, it would be a general conversation between 2 people, right? So knowing that gives you some comfort zone. You know exactly the first 3 parts would be a general conversation between 2 people. And the CELPIP site says it will always be between a man and a woman, right? So knowing that really helped me. I know what I'm going to listen to first, second, and third. So first one will be always a problem solving. So 2 people, it will be a discussion about resolving a situation. So when you go there, you have to know exactly what to look for. So if it is a listening section related to problem solving, you have to focus on what is the problem, what is the solution, what are the alternative ways of resolving the problem. That's what you need to look for, right? So that helped me in understanding and listening and carefully taking down notes. Because if you don't know exactly what you need to note down, you just keep on writing everything. And halfway through, even without you knowing, you have just got yourself lost in it, right? I've seen that happening to many people. Even when I started taking down so many notes, then I lose the focus, right? It happens, it naturally happens. So always when you're doing the first listening part, it will be a problem solving between a man and a woman. They will be discussing about a problem. Someone would be inquiring something, and try to make notes about what is the situation, what is the context, and more importantly, always note down their roles, who it is, right? Is it between a librarian and a student, right? Or is it between a hotel front desk and a guest, right? That's going to help you, right? Because that will set you the overall stage to understand and remember the context. Try to make visual images while you are listening. Second one is a daily conversation. So again, it will be just, just a casual service related interaction. So they will be changing information. So listen and try to gather main ideas, details, and the overall intent of the discussion, right? So you have to be able to read between the lines when people talk. They might not tell you the exact reason why they spoke about it. You have to listen to that and understand why are they talking, right? Is it to inquire about some information, or is it to make a formal complaint, right? Or is it to thank someone, right? That is what I mean by trying to understand the intent. So those are the things that you need to note down when you are listening to the daily conversation. Again, that is between two people. It will be between a man and a woman. Part 3, listening to information, right? So it will be most of the time between two people, or sometimes it might be just one person giving information, right? Here the difference is, out of the two people, one speaker is a specialist about that subject, right? It'll most of the time will be a university lecturer and a student. So the university lecturer is a specialist about the subject, or it can be between um, someone who has some specialized knowledge in something, maybe sports, maybe healthcare, something like that, right? So they will be giving factual information, not just day-to-day information, right? And they will be giving sequence, right? Sequential order, right? First, you need to do this, secondly, this, thirdly, this, right? So you have to follow that sequence. You have to take notes on in which order they want you to do things. So that's the third part you will be listening. So I said there'll be 6 parts in the general conversation part of CELPIP. So we are still focusing on the listening area. There are 6. The first 3 between 2 people and general conversation, which is relatively easy. So my advice to you again is, don't try to note down everything that you hear. Just knowing what you need to know will help you making notes, right? Just close your eyes and listen carefully. Don't miss a single part of the conversation. Don't miss that. That's exactly what I did. I didn't focus too much on taking notes. I just kept concentrating on the conversation, right? And I just took down what I felt is important because I knew what I have to look for. Okay, then the next 3 listening parts of the listening section is informational and opinion based. This is where things get a little advanced, right? And a little tricky as well. So the part 4 is a news item where just one person would be reading some sort of a news, right? It can be a news report or a public announcement. So just one person speaking, and it will go quite fast. It's not just a general chat between two people where we maintain a particular pace when we are talking. It's a news report. So there is a difference between two people talking casually and how news is read, right? It goes a little faster. So you have to focus. Again, the golden advice I can give is, don't try to focus too much on notes. Just close your eyes, listen to it carefully, and you have to know what you need to note down. So what I did is, in this, you will listen, you will hear certain summaries, right? So listen to the whole article and try to write a summary, what it is telling about, right? Is it something related to a political change? Is it something related to economics? For example, there might be a news article regarding tariffs, right? So try to understand the overall summary, the what is it all about, right? Is it US imposing tariffs on Canada, right? Or is it that they are negotiating? The bottom line of that news article, that will help you. Then facts and cause and effect, right? What is the cause? What is the effect, right? Canada imposing tariffs on US certain products. Then what will happen? That is the cause. And what is the effect? Okay, certain food items will go up in price. So are you going to write everything in sentences? No, just try and get yourself used to symbols, right? So tariffs, put an up arrow, increase, food prices, cause inflation, something like that. Okay, so that's part 4. Part 5 is a discussion. So in the discussion, you have to really focus because it can be 3 to 4 people in that discussion, right? It will be a group discussion. Different people will tell different things and they will have different opinions. One important thing, try to write down the names in the order in which they appear in the picture, right? From your left hand side to your right hand side, right? We'll say ABC, right? ABC. And try to make a table quickly, right? Under ABC, just try to note down what their role is. For example, if the leftmost person is the marketing manager, just note down marketing manager. If the middle person is the finance manager, finance manager. If the rightmost person is the HR director, HR director. So you have that will help you, right? So you have to know their roles and note down their opinions, right? They might be discussing about a salary revision, right? Or else they might be discussing about moving the office space to a different location, or they might be discussing about introducing new policy in the organization, right? So knowing their roles will help you to understand their opinions better. What each person thinks about the topic, you need to understand. And you also have to note down when 3 people are talking, some of them might agree on something, some might disagree. So note down who agrees on a particular point and who disagrees on a particular point, because that question is very common in this part, right? They might say, okay, I don't have an exact question paper with me right now. They might say whether there is general consensus to increase salaries, right? Or are there general consensus to adopt a new HR policy? Okay, so 3 things. Who are they? What are their opinions about it? Whether they agree or disagree. So this is like the general code. There are certain other things which we can discuss when we start the course. Then 6th one is viewpoints. Right. Now, this is tricky because this is viewpoints. You have to read between the lines. Sometimes it's told directly, sometimes it is not, right? But it's implied. So you have to listen carefully and understand what is the argument, compare their viewpoints, right? Understand their tone, right? Are they very serious about it or are they very casual about it, right? Again, the rules that are told in discussion 5, listening part 5 applies here. Know their roles, know their opinions, understand their tone. The only thing is compared to part 5, here, it's not very direct, right? You have to understand. So that's all about listening part, right? So when you are doing the examination, knowing this is going to help you. You know exactly the first 3 parts are between 2 people, most of the time between a man and a woman, right? They are talking about day-to-day general stuff. The next 3 parts are for information. So you have to pick information. First part would be a news item. Second part would be a discussion. And sixth part would be viewpoints. Right. Now, I know even I found when it comes to part 5 and 6, most of the time you get some questions wrong. That's fine, right? Don't worry about it because there are 38 questions in this part. Even if you get 2 questions wrong, you still can score like band of 9 or 10. Shouldn't be a problem, right? And most of the time they include one research question, which is unmarked, where you don't get points for it, and you don't know which question it is. So it might be one of those questions which you got wrong. So I think if people get CELPIP band 9 and above, that would be really, really helpful for most of y'all. So getting 1 or 2 questions is not going to prevent you getting that band. So don't worry that if you are getting some questions wrong in this area, because you can get most of the questions right in the first 3 parts, which is going to help you getting a good band score. Any questions in that for the listening part? If there are any questions, you can raise your hand or you can send a question in the chat. All right, so maybe we can keep the questions to the end if you have no questions right now. Let's move on to the reading section. Now, this is the section which was challenging to me even when I did IELTS, because reading section, especially part 3 and 4, becomes a bit challenging because the words, the language, the vocabulary that they use is not the day-to-day vocabulary that we use for writing or we use when we are reading things, right? It's getting a little advanced. It's not like an academic article, but not that it is so simple as well, right? So first one is reading correspondence, where it has 2 parts, email or letter and the response. So what you are expected to do is simply, it's a very simple thing, read the email, right? And they'll be asking certain questions out of that. Second part is you have to write a response to that. In the response, what you need to do is just fill in blanks. So you will get 11 questions, 11 minutes. So you have exactly 1 minute for one question, right? Which is not difficult if you know exactly what to do. So what you need to do is you have to basically understand what is the purpose of this email, right? People ask, should I read the entire email first, then answer, or should I read the question first and read the email? It really depends. It really depends on what you are comfortable with. What I did was I just skimmed through the email to do one thing, to understand the purpose and the tone. Why is this email written? And what is the tone, right? Is it to make a complaint? Is it to inquire about information? Or is it to thank someone for something, right? Or is it to convey condolence? Understanding that helps you to get better understanding of what each person's opinion would be, what their tone would be, right? So you have to understand the implied meaning, right? They might ask, we'll say there's a person called, the writer is Jane, right? Jane is writing this email to do what, right? Is it to get compensation or is it to ask for an alternative solution? It might not be told directly, but it is implied, right? Based on how it has been written. So understand the purpose, skim through it, understand the purpose, the tone, implied meaning, scan for details, right? This is the easiest part of the reading part. Then second is applying for a diagram. You get 8 questions and you've got 9 minutes to do that, right? So this is going to be visual. You will get some visuals It might be some different modes of transportation, right? For example, commuting through buses, commuting through trains, commuting through air, right? What are their costs? What are their timings? What are the additional benefits and features it offers? Something like that. So when you're doing that, you need to get some meaning for the headings, right? What this is about. Is it about, is it a food menu, right? Or is it something to do with transportation, right? What is the main purpose of doing that? So you need to understand that and underline keywords. The next important thing is compare the options, right? Which one is the cheapest option? Which one is the most expensive option? If it is to do with commuting, which is the fastest, which is the least fastest option? Those are the key things that you need to look for, right? There are techniques that you can do that fast, which we can discuss in detail. Part 3 is reading for information, right? This is not going to be a visual thing. You will be given 4 paragraphs and you will be asked to identify which paragraph contains that factual content, right? This is going to be challenging because there'll be 4 paragraphs. So they will ask a question about something, which paragraph contains information about a dying species, right? So it can be paragraph A, B, C, D, or it might be neither of them, right? Neither of those paragraphs might have that information. So that will be option E, right? People who have done this would know. So this is going to be challenging, right? So you need to predict the content. The catch here is predict the content in each paragraph, because if you try to read the paragraph in detail and answer those questions, you can't do that in 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes is just like 2.5 minutes per paragraph. And the answers that you are looking for are not in black and white in those paragraphs, right? It's told in paraphrase language. Sometimes it's not told directly, but it's implied, right? So that is why it is important to predict the content in each paragraph. What is it? What is this paragraph is about? Make notes of that. Then scan for names, dates, numbers, and conclusion, right? Each paragraph, what you need to underline is if you find a particular year, a name of a person, right? And the conclusion, what the paragraph is telling you. So how to identify them, we can discuss in detail. Then fourth one is the most challenging one, reading for viewpoints, right? So this is going to be opinion based with contrasting views. There can be 2 or 3 people or even more people telling different things about a particular topic, right? You need to identify the opinion of each person, right? And you need to identify and understand their perspective about the topic, right? You need to identify their tone. Are they very serious about this? Are they very casual about it, right? And you need to contrast between these different perspectives. So this is where the challenging part comes, and this is where most people get most questions wrong, right? Including myself when I did my practice test, right? So that's the challenging part. I can guide you how to do that, but you need to practice a lot for this part, right? If you're targeting 10 and above, you need to do a lot of practice in this part. So that's about reading. 4 parts. First one is an email and correspondence. They will ask 5 questions or 6 questions from the email. And you will be asked to fill in the blanks in the response to that email. And there are techniques that we can use when using the response, how to identify what the response should be, which we can discuss when we start the course. Then second one is applying a diagram, right? Third one is reading for information. And fourth one is a challenging one, understanding the opinion. Then comes to the writing section. I would say writing section is the most easiest out of all 4, where I can really help you to get good scores, simply because it won't change. It will be the same thing. Every time, every exam, it's the same thing, right? What I mean by same thing is that the structure of the question is the same. It's just that the context is different. If you understand the structure, right, which I can help you by giving templates for that, right, which I have shared with some other people who have used those templates and found it very easy, you can complete this task quickly because it's the same question structure. You should know exactly how many paragraphs you need to write. You should know exactly how many sentences, right? So just to give an overview, all what it takes is just 4 to 5 paragraphs, 12, 15 predetermined sentences, right? So what I did was I exactly knew this is my first paragraph, right? And these are the 3 sentences that I'm going to write. Some of that is like word to word. It's the same thing that I write, whichever the topic that comes in, right? It's just that the context is different. That I can help you. Then second paragraph, what you need to write, right? What is the first sentence, second sentence, third sentence, fourth sentence, right? Is known. So when you know exactly what your next sentence is going to be, you need not spend time thinking about that, because that is your biggest enemy. Time is your biggest enemy, right? So what I did different is I challenged that, how I can save time at the exam, right? That made a big difference, right? For that, you need to have techniques which you have developed and which you have practiced. So 12 to 15 sentences is all what it takes. And if you know exactly what you are going to do, because there are prerequisites in the CELPIP exam, the examiners have told exactly what they are looking for, right? So if you create a template exactly containing what they are looking for, there's not going to be an issue, right? Some of y'all might have challenge in grammar. It's not going to, affect you in a very bad way, because there's only a certain number of points allocated for grammatical correctness, right? So if you get your grammar wrong, you are just going to lose only those marks, not that your band score is going to come down like down to 4 or 5, right? So there's hardly any chance for you to get a spelling mistake, because it highlights if you get a spelling wrong, then you can always change that. Then there are certain words that they expect for, which we can help you by giving a list of words. For example, if you are comparing two options, what are the general words that you should use, right? Because they are looking for coherence, they are looking for vocabulary, right? So vocabulary is something that you can't improve within like 1 or 2 weeks. If you have read a lot, you know a lot of words, right? Then you need to know you need to be able to paraphrase things, right? You can't be using the same word, right? Then you have to use basically connecting words, right? From first paragraph to the second paragraph, there should be a nice transition. There are words that you can use. There are words that you can score more marks by using such words, those things which we can discuss. So writing an email is a very simple thing. What you need to do is you have to use the appropriate tone. So if you are writing to make an complaint, your email tone should reflect that, right? You can't write an complaint as if you're writing a friendly message to a friend, right? So if you've done that, you're not going to get marks. You have been tested, you have been scored for that, right? Include all the prompts in the points. If they will always tell exactly what you need to write, right? Most of the time, it's 3 things. You have to address those things, right? And each paragraph should be dedicated for each of those things. If they have said ABC, your body paragraphs, not the introduction and the conclusion, your body paragraph should address each of those things, right? So it's easier for the examiner to go through, and there's a nice flow, right? What to write in each of those things, we can discuss in detail. Then task 2 is responding to a survey question. It's always going to be the same question. That's why I said in CELPIP compared to IELTS, it's easier. in IELTS, there are like 4 to 5 different types of questions they can ask. They can ask for advantages, disadvantages. They can ask for agreement, disagreement, whether I agree, give reasons. There are different types of questions, because I can remember when I was studying for IELTS, there were like 5 types they discuss about. In CELPIP, it's a blessing. It's always going to be the same question. You have to respond to a survey. So what I did was I created my template, right? I knew exactly what my first paragraph is going to be, second, third, fourth, right? I said it's 4 to 5 paragraphs, 12, 15 sentences, right? Predetermined, same structure. What's going to change is the context, right? So what you are going to do at the exam, spend 3 to 4 minutes and understand the context and identify your 2 main ideas. Once you identify those 2 main ideas, the rest is already there in your template, right? You can easily get a high mark in this area, even if you don't have a very vast vocabulary. If you have done exactly what you've been asked to do, you get marks, right? You can just read through some of the sample answers in the CELPIP site, where they have shared like giving a band score of 10. If you read them, they're not the most fantastic or the most best emails I've seen, but they have exactly done what they have been asked for. So many people just go to the exam thinking this is an English test, right? And they don't get the band score what they want, because they have never understood what they are expected to do at the exam, right? So that is something which we can help you with. Then we'll move on to the speaking section, right? In the speaking section, there are 8 parts, right? Now, this is again a bit of a challenge if you are transitioning from IELTS to CELPIP, because there are several reasons why it is challenging, which at least for me, why it was challenging. One thing, you're not speaking to a real person, right? If you are a natural speaker, you would be very comfortable speaking to a person, because you get that eye contact. You can read their body language and see whether they are understanding what you are saying, whether they are appreciating, right? You get some instant feedback on what you're talking, right? But here, it's not the case, right? So you better practice talking on your own with a computer, if you're doing it for the first time, at least. Second thing is, CELPIP examinations are held in very small spaces, right? There might be about 6 people doing the exam at the same time in one room. And most of them would be answering the speaking section at the same time. So while you are talking to your computer with your headphones on, there will be few other people right next to you doing the same thing, right? So there's going to be background noise. Sometimes it's distracting. So that's why I said, I would say the speaking section in IELTS is easier, because you don't get 8 sections, the first thing. Second thing is that you speak to a person. Third thing is that there's very less distraction. So the first question that you're going to get is giving advice. You have to give advice to someone facing a particular crisis or a situation, or who is trying to make a decision, right? So in this area, you have to make recommendations. You are speaking to that person because he's seeking advice from you. So always try and create an image as if you are speaking to your friend, right? So you have to start your conversation in a general way, how you would speak to your best friend, right? Just say, hi, your name, right? If it is he's seeking information for a new job, you can start saying, I'm so happy that you found a good new job, and I'm happy that you reached to me for some advice. That's how you should start. If you just start saying, I would advise this, you will lose some points, right? You have to first give your greeting, right? Then you have to give some reasons for your advice and try to support it with some examples, right? Which is going to be very important. Second one is talking about a personal experience from the past, right? So you have to create a mental image of some past event. It might be a situation where you faced a crisis. It might be a situation where you had to act as a leader, right? You have to create a mental image and they will ask certain things, right? You have to understand what you've been asked for. They might ask, how did you deal with this situation and what was the outcome? So if you just explain how you did, and if you do not explain what was the outcome, you are losing marks because you haven't answered the question, right? So there again, what I would advise and what I could help is giving templates, right? Because as I said, this is where CELPIP is so nice. The structure is the same. It's just the context is different, right? If you have your structure in mind, this is what I'm going to tell first, this is what I'm going to tell second, this is the third, and this is my conclusion, right? You know the flow. You don't have to think what I'm going to tell next. It's just that you apply the context into your template and you speak about it, right? And these are like 60 seconds. That's very simple because you'll be given like 10 seconds to get yourself prepared. So imagine you go there without any template, without knowing what I'm going to tell in my first sentence, second sentence, third sentence, and you're given 10 seconds and asked to speak, you will find it difficult, right? You can score, right? If you have some background in talking to people, and if you are a very socialized person, you can talk, you can get a band score. But what I'm saying is if you're targeting a high band score, you have to use some techniques. Then third one, describing a scene. You will see in my slide I have highlighted 4 topics out of the 8 in blue color. The 4 that I have highlighted in blue are not text based. You will be given a picture and you have to speak about that picture. So 4 out of the 8 is based on a visual, right? Third one is describing a scene, which is one of the easiest, but people find it very difficult, right? You will be given a picture and you will be asked to talk about it 60 to 90 seconds, right? So what are you going to do? Again, you need to have a template. You have to know exactly what my first line is going to be, what I'm going to tell there, right? And from where am I going to start describing this picture, right? You need to have a certain set of phrases that you can use, right? And you have to sound very natural, right? You need to have your gestures, postures, though they can't see you, right? Your videos will be recorded, right? Though they can't see you, your gestures, postures, how you pause, it has to sound natural, right? And you have to move, very importantly, start talking about this picture, first give an overview, right? What this picture is about, because you have to always think the person to whom you are describing this picture can't see this. So first tell what it is about. Then fourth one is a continuation of part 3, where you need to make a prediction, right? Same picture. Now you are going to make predictions about what may happen in that picture next, right? Key point to remember, don't again explain what the picture is about, because that you did in part 3. Part 4, right? You have to make predictions, right? You have to give a prediction, try to give a reason why you think that might happen, right? And you should not explain the picture again. That is very important because people just try to explain what it is again. No, that's not what is the expectation is. Make predictions. So you have to have a set of words that you can use when you're making a prediction. It is probable, it can be assumed, right? I predict, it may happen, right? You have to know certain words that you are going to, and what you predict, don't worry whether that is a correct thing to say. You are not assessed for correctness. You are not given points for correctness. It can be something out of the blue moon. If you feel like saying it, tell it. That's no problem at all, right? Something weird, something crazy, right? For example, we'll say the picture is about a sunny park. You can say, I predict it might start raining in the next 5 minutes. Perfectly fine, right? You are not assessed for that. What you are assessed for is whether you use words that we would normally use in a conversation to make predictions about, right? Future tense words, whether you are using that, and whether you have spoken the 60 seconds, your tone about it, and your flow, continuity, right? Those are the things that you need to improve, and we can help you giving tips on those areas. Number 6, dealing with a difficult situation. Now, this is where you need to show your persuasive skills, right? How you are going to persuade someone. You will be given two different, you will be given, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, two, yeah, a situation, and I'm not sure whether one or two, yeah. And you have to handle a problem, an awkward situation, right? For example, you are being invited for your uncle's 50th birthday party, but you can't make it because you have an office commitment, right? It's an awkward situation. He expects your company, but you can't make it because you have some predetermined work, right? So you have to stay calm, because you can't just use aggressive language there. Stay calm. You have to offer solutions. You have to try and make up for something, right? Show that you're sorry, empathy, and speak logically, right? There are ways you can do that. Again, not that you can use a template here, but there are like sentences which you can use in this area for whichever the question, right? So if you know 2 or 3 sentences that you can speak, irrespective of the context of the question, you are saving time and you are not under stress, right? For example, you can say, I hope it helps. For any question, you can say, I hope it helps. Why can't you? Right? You save time. You added 3 words to your answer, and you have spent about 1 or 2 seconds saying that, right? So there are key taglines which shows that you are a natural speaker. That is something that they are looking for, right? And you are fluent, you have vocabulary. Those are the things that would make a difference between band 7 and band 10, right? Then finally, part 8 of the speaking area is describing an unusual situation. So what to expect is a weird picture. I remember a question where there's a vehicle, three of the wheels are looking normal. The fourth one is looking weird, right? So now you need to explain this odd picture to someone. Remember, in this question, there will be 2 parts. Most of the people answer just one part and lose marks, right? There are 2, right? So first thing is you need to, most of the time, the second part is you have to ask that person whether he or she would like to come and join with you, whether they would like to come and see this, right? So you have to ask them. So if you explain the picture and if you don't say, would you like to come and join and watch this situation, you're losing marks, right? So there are 2 parts. So knowing that, you won't miss that. Okay. 99% of the time, there will be 2 parts in this part 8, right? So and this part, you are calling someone. It's always that you're calling someone. So when you are calling someone, just remember that this person is not seeing this picture. So give an overview about it. Give some details, why you think it is odd, why you think it's funny, right? Why you think it's scary, right? And give that option that person to come. Again, where you can score marks is have some lines which you can repeat in any question, right? So that we can help giving some templates. So those are the 4 sections. That's the overview. I've shared some of the strategies that I've used. There are more things that we can discuss in those areas. So how I got a high score in CELPIP is simply by mastering all those videos in the CELPIP site. You're welcome to do that. If you have time, go through that. If you don't have time, what I can do is that I can share what I have summarized. I can share the templates that I have developed, right? I can help you with certain things that you can always write without stress. For example, in the essay, what are the lines which you can always repeat without any problem, irrespective of the essay, so that your word count is there. You save time doing that. And knowing the template will help you manage your time. So I can't stress enough how important it is that you know what you are getting into, you knowing the expectation in each section, and having predetermined templates and predetermined sentences in doing that. All right, so that brings us to the end of today's presentation. So we can have some questions. If anything that I can answer, I'm more than happy to answer that. Any questions? Can I see a show of hands of people who have at least done CELPIP once? You can just use this function. You can raise your hand, just a count. Anyone else? So I see that there are 9 people who have done the CELPIP exam. Okay, there's 10 people. So looks like most of you who have joined today are yet to do an exam. So my advice is you need to know exactly what the template is. You need to know exactly what the requirement is, right? If you are a user of English language for your day-to-day purposes, you should be able to do it. But if you are targeting a very high band score, right? Anything above, I would say above 9, you have to know certain techniques, and those techniques will really help you. So what I just gave you is an overview. And if anyone is interested, you all are more than welcome to join our course. So you can get in touch with the institute, and they will let you know exactly when we are planning to start the course. And the template is that we will be basically looking at having 4 sessions. In each session, we'll be covering one aspect. For example, we'll be starting with listening. And in that section, we'll be covering everything that would help you in getting a high band score, and uh, strategies in taking notes, and strategies in understanding what is implied when 2 people are talking. Then in the reading section, again, how you can take notes, what to look for. Then in the reading one, I can simply share some templates, help you with some sentences that you can repeat, and what sentences and what words and how you arrange your flow is important. That's where you can get a very high band score. And speaking, again, I can share templates. I can tell, help you improve on your flow, how to sound natural, and how to be relaxed when you're talking, right? So all that we can discuss when we start the course. I don't see any question. Okay, there's one in the chat. Yeah, so there's a question. Can you share good templates for writing task 1 and 2? Yes, that's what we are going to help you with, that we can do. May I know the course fee? So what was communicated to me by the institute is that we'll be charging $120 for the entire course. Anything else? Hi, for reading, we won't be able to underline or highlight important information, right? Like ideas. No, I think you can highlight. There's a function you can highlight. There's a function you can highlight in reading. Anyone who have done CELPIP recently can put in the chat whether I'm right or wrong. There's a function where you can right click and highlight. Please, can we have all the details? So all the details, I presume what you want to know is the course fee, the duration. So it will be 4 classes. What we are trying to do is have, because many people have an urgency of registering for exams and doing exams. So I think you all were given a questionnaire to fill when you are comfortable in joining and the days of the week. So based on the responses, what we got, we can decide on that. So one option is that we have 2 classes a week. So within 2 weeks, we complete the entire course. Yeah, so how long will be the course? So we can complete it in 2 weeks to 1 month, and we are targeting for 4 classes, but if required, we can even have one extra class. That's not an issue at all. And can you all also put in the chat like what sort of a band score if anyone is targeting? Because you all know, right? CELPIP, how your band score decided is the one base your lowest scored band. For example, you get 8, 9, 10, and you get 1, 7. So your overall band is the lowest. So that's where it's sometimes it's very tricky. People get band scores, good band scores in certain areas, but certain areas you really can't go beyond a particular band score. So if there are no more questions, we can wind up for today. And for more information, you can always reach out to the institute, and they will share all the information in terms of registration when we are starting and all that. So thank you so much for making time today and being here. And I hope that I um, gave some insights. If anyone is planning to do exams in the next couple of days, I hope that you got a good understanding, and I wish you all the very best in getting your desired band score. Right. Thank you so much for joining.